Sadly, the Tippet shooting is the one part of the evening that is not pleasant to talk about. We've gone from Dealey Plaza. We didn't have to go through the tragic events that happened in Dealey Plaza, but what we're going to talk about tonight and see in some of the photographs is the crime scene photographs of 10th and Patton Street, where Officer JD Tippit lost his life. As full disclosure, I must admit, so you understand my background, I spent a career with the FBI and was in charge of all of the John F. Kennedy assassination records. Officer Tippit was 39 years of age. He'd been with the Dallas Police Department only 11 years. And if you look at his salary of $5,880, you stop and think that this is what this man was earning when he lost his life. He made $490 per month and was working numerous extra jobs, to include one here at the Texas Theater. He was a World War II veteran and was a paratrooper in the U.S. Army and earned the Bronze Star. And of course, he was married and had 3 kids. The Tippet shooting is probably, because of all the books that have been written, movies, etc., has probably been the one area of the assassination story that has really been overlooked. It's almost become a footnote in the assassination weekend story. You have Officer JD Tippit, who is patrolling outside of his district. Oak Cliff was his beat, but the area of 10th and Patton Street was not in the area that he normally covered. But he was ordered by Dallas Police Dispatcher Murray Jackson to basically be at large. And in this case, Tippit is driving eastbound on 10th Street, having just crossed Patton Street. And Oswald is walking westbound towards Tippit's patrol car. And what is believed to have transpired in that brief second is that Oswald sees Officer Tippit coming towards him and in turn turns around and starts walking eastbound. A total of 12 witnesses saw Oswald with the pistol. Various witnesses saw Oswald shoot Officer Tippit. 6 positively identified Oswald as the killer. But as Oswald fired the 3 shots into Officer J.D. Tippit, he also fired a 4th shot into Officer Tippit's forehead. But when Tippit stopped Oswald, yes, he fit a general description, but that is not the reason I believe that he stopped Oswald. It's because Oswald turned around and started going in the opposite direction. Tippit had a brief conversation with Oswald through the vent window on the police car, put the car in park, and started to get out of the patrol car, at which time Oswald, from across the hood of the car, fired 3 shots into Officer Tippit's chest as he's pulling the pistol and fell to the ground. Oswald came around from the rear of the car and fired the 4th shot into the right temple of Officer Tippit. This is an aerial photograph. It's kind of hard to see because it's a Warren Commission exhibit. But what you see is the area in which, this is where Tippit's patrol car was at 404 East 10th Street. The Davis sisters, which lived in the corner house here, Domingo Benavides, who was in a pickup truck parked here, Helen Markham, who is standing here on the corner, and William Scoggins, who was in a cab. But as you see, Tippit's driving down the street. Tippit had actually, Oswald had actually started down Denver Street, going in this direction when it's believed he turned around and had the altercation with Officer Tippit here. The whole incident lasted only a matter of seconds. With that, in the Davis sisters' front shrubbery is where Oswald emptied the four spent shell casings, reloaded, and then took off down the street, where he passed Ted Calloway here, and then took off down here towards the Brock Texaco gas station. And his white jacket, which is now on display at the museum in Washington, was recovered under some cars, which I'll show you later, behind the church. Another gentleman was driving down the street, and that's Temple Ford Boley, also known as Tom Boley. He's just a citizen driving with his 12-year-old down the street, and he comes upon Officer JD Tippit's body in the street. Temple Boley gets on the police radio, and let me show you here. This is where Officer Tippit's body was laying actually perpendicular. There'll be a lot of documentaries that you'll see that have him laying next to the wheel well, but actually he was perpendicular in the street, laying on his left-hand side. But Temple Boley, with his 12-year-old daughter in the car, stops and goes over to Officer Tippit's patrol car and gets on the police radio and the famous audio recording where he says, "Hello, hello, police operator. We've had a shooting out here," and they said, "What's wrong?" And, someone shot a police officer, and he's using the radio of Officer Tippit's patrol car. Now you can see the patrol car, the engine was still running on the police car. This is the sidewalk that Oswald was walking on. This is the view where the witness was in the cab. And this right here is the blood stain from Officer Tippit's forehead where he was shot in the head. As I say, he got almost perpendicular to the wheel well when he was shot fatally in the head. For those of you that have been to the site of where we have our Texas Historical Commission marker, the marker to this day actually sits right over here on 10th Street. And then this is Patton that runs right here. This, of course, is where the jacket was found. And keep in mind that the arrest of Oswald was solely on November 22nd for the shooting of Officer JD Tippit. And when Oswald was first, you see the arrest reports here, and of course these various police documents, and eventually filed on by David Johnson, the Justice of the Peace. He was initially filed on only for the shooting of Officer JD Tippit. So when Oswald ended up leaving the shooting scene, he was completely gone. The Dallas police had no idea where he was. After the jacket episode, he was completely lost. He dropped off the radar screen. And just right down the street from here, and it's not on one of our historic sites, at 213 West Jefferson was where Hardy's Shoe Store was. When 22-year-old Johnny Calvin Brewer sees Oswald step into the foyer of his car, and as he does, at 1:38 p.m., he hears on KLIF radio Roy Nichols' broadcast that a police officer had been shot and killed. Here's Temple Boley. I arranged with the Dallas Police Department in 2010 for him to receive the highest Citizens Award, the Citizens Certificate of Merit. And what was so ironic was when we awarded Temple Boley, Tom Boley, the highest award for a citizen, that is what led to us having a Texas Historical Commission marker when Brad Watson asked, "Why aren't we honoring Officer Tippit?" So it's interesting to think that the call of duty, the call of honor, in one case, actually caused the call of duty with the old Oak Cliff Conservation League to lead the charge, and I was the historian who wrote the 109-page report, and then, of course, subsequently the wording on the 289 words on the marker. And lastly, what's interesting for me is I first brought the Tippit family to the location here when we placed a replica Dallas police car in the exact spot. This was the very first time the Tippit family as a whole had come to the crime scene. And now, what's so enjoyable is the marker is a place that they stop, Marie Tippit stops, and the family does as well. And this coming November 21st, the day before the incident, the Dallas Police Association will hold a candlelight vigil there at the marker. So I feel very proud that the old Oak Cliff Conservation League and the community, that everyone stepped forward and enabled us with DISD to have a parcel of land to honor Officer JD Tippit. And this is something that gives the family a lot of comfort and joy. And then lastly, I'll introduce it to Nancy McCoy.